Amongst a grand supply of recommended and first introductory names that many of you have provided to me in regards to broadening my library of understanding with the European metal and rock landscapes are particular mainstays, and WARKINGS is such one that you've regarded in my comment sections for a long time, notably in connection to anything circulating around Melissa Bonney, who's a long-time stand-in on this channel in regards to music consultations. I've truly appreciated her work. Maybe you're not familiarized, and I think going in, if you happen to be on the first introduction level, you are going to be spellbound by her. And I would also recommend many of the groups she's been associated with and other ventures, many of which we've covered on this channel or are incoming in the future. Though you might be like, well, Melissa Bonney's not regarded here. She's going by another name, I guess, to fit the scene that WARKINGS maybe is more so known for. Again, I'm approaching on a first-name basis, so forgive me if maybe I'm not getting every fact straight, and I welcome clarification down below. But she is otherwise known as the Queen of the Damned, which kind of puts like a negative connotation, at least on her presence. Yet the Queen label is apropos, because she really is a queen in the metal scene, at least in my regard. So she's credited here as the main presence. And we're going to be looking at, in fact, two of the projects I'm first engaging with to get a good approach with WARKINGS. Maybe more in the future. We'll see. Probably. I would imagine so with time. But two tracks currently with ODIN'S, that's one spotlight here in a separate video incoming, Sparta. And upon looking at it to get some information, again, WARKINGS has been a name that's gotten a number of regards in my comment sections. If you want a good baseline going in, they are a German, Austrian, Swiss-based group, so it's kind of hitting on a number of countries. And power metal as well feels particularly relevant to where I'm sitting right now, and that I just, in fact, covered 16 tracks in total very recently from Frozen Crown. They're Italian. I also highly recommend them. See, I can give you a whole list of names in terms of first engagements if, again, you've not ventured into the European rock scene as deeply as I have. And like I said, music in general, I mean, I've been wanting to broaden it out in concentration on this channel for a number of years, as many of you know. And it's been wonderful to do so with very specifically talented and advantageous listeners as a part of the European library, especially in the first introduction journey, because music can provide such a wonderful exchange for fellowship. Perhaps, maybe not always, but it really is one of the more interactive arts, at least in this channel and exploration. I truly like taking deep dives with you. And perhaps sharing in simultaneous entrances with long-lasting talents on your playlist, and especially on replayability, which every group at this point, there's not been a song on this channel that I've not liked. WARKINGS, I'm sure, will apply, especially with Melissa Bonney's regard. But that's what I was saying. So WARKINGS, power metal, German, Austrian, Swiss-based, with a lot of character, kind of like Feuerschwangs, very individualistic, at least in the way that I picture them, and that there's a uniqueness with their illustration. And that's sort of, from my understanding with their concept, they're a hybrid between like 5 different entities within the European atmosphere. I'm not sure as much with Morgana Le Fay, or at least her character, the evil sorceress, as she's referred to here. But in other ventures, there's more of like a mythological twist, which also dives into some of my favorites with the European scene. Like, let's say, for example, Blackbriar. They were an emerging talent to me for, at least I've known about them for a long time, and I've followed their work closely. Dutch symphonic gothic metal, if you're not familiar, and they tend to employ a lot of myth focuses and tales in their lyrics. They're very unique. So this kind of, feeds into some of my other interests in specific focus of the European scene with different figureheads of history, in part. The Roman Tribune, I'm looking at least the WARKINGS site here again to get a good baseline. So the Roman Tribune, the savage Nordic warrior, the determined crusader, and the lethal Spartan. A good mix of character, I think, a bit vengeful in energy. So I'm assuming that power metal side is going to be on the more aggressive territory, and that's, there's a wide variety in regards to preferences in the metal scene for sure, but I do tend to go on the more thrash side in terms of first prioritization of listens. So WARKINGS, I'm sure, will fit in very nicely with my tastes. Anywho, let's get a good understanding for the group, at least on art. But I think it gets a good baseline going in. There's a real character dimension to this group, and being familiarized to Melissa Bonney, I'm charmed already. I have the first track pulled up alongside with the video, that being ODIN'S. And we're going to take another look at Melissa Bonney and her efforts, which we've been doing a lot lately, or I guess I'll rephrase, the Queen of the Damned, to fit in with the character here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up, as I said, the video for ODIN'S, along with the narrative structure of the piece. And if you're not familiar with how I format my coverage, or perhaps my content is a first introduction to you, I do try and provide accommodation to listener taste to the best extent that I can. So if you'd like to read along with the exploration of, I'm assuming, the myth focus, I'm going to have the lyrics available to you in the video, in fact. If not, just sit back and perhaps entertain this new group with me. Their first listen, so maybe we're sharing in that experience, or maybe you're very familiarized to WARKINGS. I know some of you are. So you're getting the perspective of somebody who, again, has not initiated yet, which has been the story of many European talents. But here's another one that I'm sure will be quite promising, again, thanks to a number of you. I wouldn't have known otherwise. Or maybe I would have found out over time. But certainly not as quickly. Okay, I like the percussion emphasis. Feels very mythic already. Yeah, real war energy. Little slower pace. Okay, here we go. There's the emphasis. Let's say slower pacing than some of the other. Okay, we're pushing forward a bit. Bit of an acceleration. I was gonna say it's more emphasized than some of the other pop or power metal ventures I've heard. There's more attention fixated on, I think, the background than the speed. But now we're moving forward a bit. Not that I'm complaining. I find it charming. If you've not heard Melissa Bonney before, this is a particular talent of hers.
From the north, we will rise. We bring the winter with all his might.
Oh, rich voice. I love that. I love the dominant accent. It feels very European. And it mixes very well with the tone of their stories. Good jump back in, quick, minimal pause, I like that, keeps the pacing forward. I thought how Melissa makes it look, or the Queen of the Damned, makes it look so simple in regards to her vocals. Like, sometimes with other groups you see a scream in the mouth, it's like, it just seems like she's almost not screaming at all, it just seems so natural for her. But it's so clean on delivery. Yeah, the tune basis reminds me of a lot of music I grew up on earlier on in the rock scene, not with specific focus to power metal. I'll come back to what I was saying in a minute. Like the higher tone of that last growl on part of Melissa. And they're a good compliment in respect to both her and the Tribune. Like I was saying with regard to the relevancy of other power metal groups on this channel, specifically, like, say, Frozen Crown, a lot of their songs have a bit of a quicker pacing to the guitar work. And I'm not speaking ill of comparison like WARKINGS, or I'm trying to compare the two entities, but it's interesting, like I said, to see the personality that is differentiated within the metal scene on part of, even within genre, or subgenre of the metal field. Because in this case, the rhythm is less accelerated. It has that rough pacing on part of the guitar work, and it's very enjoyable. Again, I think it sets a great basis, but it's more so the foundation of the song and in the tune, along with a progressive war energy that grows over time, simultaneous to the stressing of the tune over the faster pace. And the faster pace is more so the momentum that keeps the track in acceleration. But the tune has much more of a grand presence to it. It really feels like a song with a wide vision. And I do appreciate, by the way, like I said, the individuality among the many artists in the European scene I listen to, and there is so much to speak of, again, in regards to particular characters that I don't want to necessarily overshadow, as I said many times. There's plenty of talents, geographically speaking, in very diverse areas of the world. You just have to necessarily know where to find it, and it can certainly help when it's in the form of a recommendation. As I said, I probably would have gotten to WARKINGS eventually, but maybe not as quick as if it hadn't been for the regard of many of you who are fans of the Queen of the Damned. Forgive me, by the way, if I know some of you expressed maybe in other group ventures, like, well, the presences here are referred to by character names. I try so hard. Maybe in some cases I'm still learning. I'm learning that's more so specifically with Feuerschwangs, and I'm probably gonna have to make a list to remember everybody by their associated names. So forgive me if I'm flipping between Melissa and the Queen of the Damned, where it's more so, I guess, specifically meant to be seen here as the Queen of the Damned, because it fits with the members of the Viking, the Spartan, the Crusader, and the Tribune. So, again, I'm learning. I appreciate the opportunity to better immerse myself. It's a good song. I mean, I really did enjoy the presence. And as I said, if you're approaching the Queen of the Damned on a first impression basis, she has appeared in other ventures by a different appearance, in part, or at least in regard, with a similar talent range, specifically on part of the growls. I mean, it just amazes me how effortless she makes it appear. And in respect of the Tribune as well, I think he's got a good, competent layering of different vocal tonalities. On the one hand, he's more so the melodic basis, which is interesting. Sometimes in collaborative work, you oftentimes see the guest artist coming in and offering. This hasn't always been the case. There's been exceptions that fit this line, but sometimes you'll see the familiar talent take on the more aggressive screaming role, where it might be the collaborator that brings in the more melodic side, and yet it's flipped here. And in fact, it's also the collaborative artist that takes on the introductory role, especially on the first verse, which is a great impression, by the way, to set. I mean, well, it's actually applied to both verses, but the Queen has a very dominant presence here, and it was wonderful to hear her talents offered again, like I said, with specific focus on the screaming side. And WARKINGS has a great place, especially, like, as I said, on the individuality of the artist and the character. The mythology side gives it this unique flair. Especially on vision, I like the video. It's got a pleasant blue, especially on first engagement. On a visual perspective, you keep watching, right? It doesn't... How do I want to say this? For those of you who are first introductions, or maybe you're not even... Maybe you're coming at this from a variety of perspectives. Maybe you're like, I appreciate the individuality of artists and high caliber talent, but maybe you're not necessarily the, prioritized in your mind metal fan, right? Maybe you look to other genres, and I keep a door open in other places as well. Many of you know that in regards to previous work I've consulted on this channel. I try and be fair because there's talent in multiple spheres. But I think in terms of first introduction of crafting an endearing presentation, it's a good color palette to use, and I love wintertime imagery as well. It certainly fits with the Nordic and Asgard mythology theming, for sure. But it was fun in terms of an engagement. I feel all around, WARKINGS which is more so, at least from narratives, it's heavy on mythology. I love the bridge, by the way, the Freya, Loki, like I just love, like we're just spurting out names, again, it fits. Again, like I said, the message here is more so like a narrative story towards the Asgard myths, or beliefs, I guess. But it's really interesting to humor. Again, I love personality of European talents, and WARKINGS certainly has it. I'm part of all their members, including the presence of the Queen. What are your thoughts? For WARKINGS, this is the first introduction for you. I'd love to hear if you do wish to disclose your perspective down below. Maybe your point of approach. Is this the first introduction on part of name? Maybe you didn't know about them going. Maybe you heard the name WARKINGS. Maybe in passing to some of the other comments you saw on my channel and other artistic consultations. Or maybe you're one such person that provided the recommendation in the first place. And, I can't say it enough. Thank you very much for that. I'd love to hear what you think down below. I think it's a well-rounded, good piece of work. And again, everything of Melissa, the Queen. See? I told you this would be a problem. Confusion. Forgive me. But, we're talking about the same person here, right? So, take it for how you will. But as I was saying, with the Queen, it's always been wonderful to humor her talents in whatever work it happens to be. And, of course, we'll find more regular appearances of her alter ego in other endeavors. But WARKINGS, this is a good first introduction. I'm really curious now to hear Sparta as well and to broaden out my understanding with them. But, as always, of European talent, they're always quite charming. I can't speak enough of how much I appreciate that realm of the world, and WARKINGS is just an ever such name that fills me with pride on being a devoted European metal fan. Love what I heard just now. A lot of atmosphere, individuality. I appreciate that in art. And I always get that with music, especially in the European landscape. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.